everybody, and welcome back to episode 26 of Jux, an All Things Sports podcast, presented by Always Boolin. If you're on our YouTube, Always Boolin, drop a like, hit the subscribe button. If you're on Spotify, give us a follow, give us a 5-star rating if you think that's warranted. Little bit of a lot of bit today, kind of all over the place. NBA season's wrapping up, NHL season's wrapping up. College basketball is over. MLB has just begun. And NFL draft frenzy is heating up, as well as some wager wheel picks later on, but we will get into that later. First things first, Train. Let's jump into some NFL. We'll start it off with a little bit of a reunion story. A guy who's only played for the Big Cat teams. Previously a Jaguar, loved him there. Great locker room guy. He was a Lion before that, Bengal before that. But he's back with the Lions. Marvin Jones Jr. in a receiver room that's young, maybe. And an offense that's got some new steam behind it. Is Marvin Jones Jr. a name that at least gets you a little bit excited to see a familiar face back in an organization that seems to be on the up?
Yeah, and I think you said it. We have a young wide receivers on our team, and this is a pretty much a veteran at this point that's been in the league for a long time, played with a few teams, and kind of just knows how it goes. He's a great wide receiver still. Well, I don't know if I'd say great. He's a good wide receiver still. He played with Matthew Stafford, Golden Tate, and that was fun to watch. I still think he's he could still make great catches, and he was on the Jags. He can still catch a ball, and most people can. So I think he'll be a good, I think third wide receiver, right now, with how it's looking between him and Josh Reynolds, and that's kind of what I'm thinking. But I was pretty happy with the pickup. I think he's a good wide receiver to have on the team, not just for his talent, just for his locker room presence as well.
Yeah, and like you said on the outline, no Jaguars news besides Marvin Jones Jr. not coming back.
Right.
Something we kind of figured. He kind of got pushed out last year behind Zay Jones even. And then with Calvin Ridley coming in, possibly a young receiver in the draft, it was just kind of a thanks for being with us through the Urban Meyer years. That must have sucked. Good luck on your future. I'm happy he went back to a team that I know will like and respect him. The Lions liked him when he was there before. He was fun for the Jags, did good things. But again, for Jags fans, we're just sitting and waiting for the draft. We kind of foresaw that coming with the spending we did in the last free agency. The cap space we did maneuver open, we used to make some depth signings and look forward to the draft. So yeah, legitimately no Jaguars news, unless you count the draft as potential Jaguar news. Biggest headline right now, I guess you could say there's two of them. Who's going number one and what's happening with Jalen Carter? We'll jump into Jalen Carter first. Presumably his agent's only been letting him interview with top 10 teams, saying there's no way he's dropping outside of the top 10. Talent-wise, we know we've got it in him. There was questions regarding how he acts. I don't know if there's a ton to go off of that, unless you're really reading into the news, basing a lot of decisions that a guy in college made on an NFL future. He was a ball player at Georgia, despite questions people may have. And the biggest headline I took away from Jalen Carter was the Dan Campbell part where he said, he talked to some Jalen Carter teammates and they had interesting things to say and they pushed him a little bit. And he said it was just interesting.
Not good, not bad, just interesting.
Hearing that, do you think that's bad? I mean, if it was good, maybe he says it. Maybe they're holding their cards to their chest. If Jalen Carter is there at 6, is that still a pick you'd want the Lions to make?
Yes. I think he's a great talent, and he's really good. There's a reason why he's not talking to anybody outside the top 10 for picks, and it's because he's a great player. There's a lot going around. Media is tearing him apart before this draft. Um, with that being said, however, I think it's a little like ridiculous that he's not talking to any teams outside the top 10. Maybe one team outside the top 10 was like, we need this guy. We'll trade up to get this guy. And now they're not going to because they haven't talked to him or visited him or done anything with him or talked to him whatsoever. So I think that portion of it is a little ridiculous, and maybe the ego's too high for that. Maybe it's his agent that told him to do that. But I thought it was a red flag. But if we do draft him, full confidence in Brad and the Lions organization, that it will work well.
For the sake of arguments, let's say 1 through 5 all goes offensive.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Seahawks will go defense, but for the sake of what ifs, let's say 5 offensive guys go first overall. Maybe someone trades up to get a quarterback at 5. Your pick of the defensive players at 6. At that point, are you still okay with a Jalen Carter pick if he's the first defensive player off the board? Do you value him over a Will Anderson or another edge rusher?
I would be shocked if we took Jalen Carter. I'd be shocked in general if all offensive players went. But
Right? Yeah.
yeah, I would take Will Anderson over Jalen Carter just because that's the generational guy on defense, and everyone knows it. I think realistically, the Cardinals are going to take him if they don't trade back, but I think they'll just probably trade back as far as the Colts. So the Colts will move up one position just to get um, either Will Levis or Richardson. So, you have your future first round draft pick being Anthony Richardson, and I don't want to count that out yet. I think if I had to guess right now, no trades, it's going to go Stroud, Young, Will Anderson. And it's kind of thrown up in the air, but I think the Colts still want a quarterback with Will Levis. And then Seattle's really going to throw me off. It could be Jalen Carter. It could be Christian Gonzalez. It could be any defensive guy, but I think they're going to go defense.
Interesting. You said C.J. Stroud number 1. A lot of reports are coming out now that the Panthers love Bryce Young. If you give up that kind of capital to move up to number 1, you have to get the best guy in the draft. If you didn't like Bryce Young, why not move up to 2 and give up a little bit less? If you thought Will Levis and Anthony Richardson were around the same potential as Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud, move up to 3 or 4 instead. If you think it's an even quarterback room, you don't have to give up the capital you gave up to go up to number 1.
But 1 and 2 and 3 are completely different. I hear you on that.
And recently they're thinking Bryce Young might be the move at 1 for the Panthers. This has been flip-flopping almost weekly. There was a stint where it was Richardson. There was a stint where it was C.J. Stroud. And now it's turned back to Bryce Young. Is there a shot they take Bryce Young at 1? Are you pretty confident on C.J. Stroud? Do you like Bryce Young?
There's definitely a shot they go Bryce Young because of what you said. They get their option. They get their pick now at the 2. I just thought I could just kind of see it a little bit more. I can see Bryce Young as a Texan. I can see Stroud as a Panther, and that's just what I think is going to happen. Do I think I think Bryce Young can make those plays. He's been there. He's done that. But yeah, I think it could go either or. And what I'm thinking is Stroud being number 1, Bryce at number 2. But I would not be shocked if Panthers went Bryce number 1.
I think Stroud's the move. I've voiced my opinions on Bryce Young. I don't think he can throw efficiently from an NFL pocket surrounded by big offensive linemen. A lot of the plays you see him make are oh no, I got to get out of here, rolls out, and then threat of throw it or run it. And I'm not sure if he can sit behind 5, 6'6", 250, 300-pound guys, see over them, and deliver an efficiently thrown ball. The athleticism's there, no doubt. Um, is
So
the
you
athle-
think he's too short?
I do. I mean, what? He's Kyler Murray-esque in his measurements, and I don't think he's Kyler Murray-esque in his athleticism. I don't think he's close to Kyler Murray's athleticism. Uh, and we know how I feel about Kyler Murray as an NFL quarterback, as someone who puts up good numbers and is athletic and can scramble and get yards and touchdowns on the ground. Bryce Young might be able to do that. I don't think he'll be able to do it at the level of Kyler Murray. I think Lamar Jackson's on a different planet when it comes to that, mostly because he's got a little bit more size than both of the guys. He's a prototypical speed quarterback. He's got the intangibles. I think you put good receivers around Lamar Jackson too. I think he can be just as successful as a prototypical pocket passer, probably more so with his athleticism. I am really worried about Bryce Young. I think he put on weight before the combine to look better. I don't think he's even as tall as the measurements are saying. Maybe not a
5'10".
bust. I just don't see it. I don't see it. It doesn't work out often. I mean,
So you think he goes to the Texans?
I do.
If
I
I
think the
mean,
Texans
okay,
are in love with him. I think the move should be for the Panthers to take Stroud at 1. I would like the Panthers to take Stroud at 1 because out of all the quarterbacks, I can see him having the best career. So I'd prefer he's not in the AFC South, whether that be the Texans or the Colts. Um, I'd love it for the Texans to go Bryce Young at 2 and the Colts to go Will Levis at 4. If I had to pick two quarterbacks, those are teams that quarterbacks are going to go to. We know that. If I had to pick two quarterbacks to go to the AFC South, those would be the two I'd like to see. Tennessee Titans might play a factor on draft night. I don't know yet. They're looking to get rid of Ryan Tannehill. He's got like a $34 million cap hit. The AFC South is a shaky division, and it feels weird saying that the Jaguars are one of the more stable teams in that division right now after what they've been going through besides that 2017 run. I think Stroud's got the best chance to be a great talent. There's not that 100% sure thing, can't miss this guy, which is why I think it was so shocking for the Panthers to move up to 1 as early as they did. But why not get it done and out of the way? If you see your guy, go get your guy. Maybe they love
right.
someone. These scouts get paid to do this. I do not. I think it's going to be a fun draft night
I'm
because
so pumped.
it's when the Jags took Trevor Lawrence, it was fun, but we knew we were taking Trevor Lawrence. Trayvon Walker was kind of up in the air, but for the most part, you knew it was going to be Trayvon 1, and then if/when that happened, you knew the Lions were going to take Hutch 2. This is one of the first drafts where, and stuff might come out closer to it. Leaks happen, but it might be one of the first drafts in a while where Goodell comes to the podium for pick 1, and we don't know what it's going to be.
It
And I
will be.
think I
Yeah.
think that's fun, especially when Lions are at 6. Luckily for you guys, but for a draft where I'm finally gonna have to sit and wait for pick 24, I think there's a chance. Well, I think it's gonna be a fun draft. I'm looking forward to it. I think cornerbacks are gonna go off the board earlier than people are thinking. That's been a trend the last couple of years. Um, I wouldn't be shocked if Gonzalez or who's the other
Witherspoon?
one? Witherspoon. I wouldn't be
Witherspoon?
shocked if one of them comes off the board earlier than expected, potentially to the Lions if they really like their guy. Hutch had a good season. You brought back your interior D line who did good for you. If you love an edge rusher, take him. I wouldn't be shocked if they got a cornerback because they thought he was the one. I think Devin Witherspoon is the guy. People are already saying he could be a top 10 corner out of the draft. And again, they get paid to do it. I don't. I like Devin Witherspoon. I do think the Lions will end up going edge or interior D line, but I wouldn't be shocked if they go cornerback at 6. And then we both got a while to
100%.
wait until 18 and 24. So I think it'll be a fun
Yeah.
draft night. I do.
I'm
We'll keep
pumped.
things on the Lions for a sec, and I've been running you a lot here, but we'll go right back to it. The Jamal Williams contract offer came out. following his press conference where he said, did he say he felt disrespected? Was that, am I getting press conferences
I
mixed
think
up?
I think no, I think you're kind of right on that. I think he said something along those lines.
Along those lines. And it turned out to be around what David Montgomery got, at least, maybe a little bit more. It was more money than he ended up signing for. A lot of people are thinking the agent fumbled the bag and said, no, let's go test free agency before we sign with the Lions. Lions said, whatever, we're not waiting. We're going to go get David Montgomery. And Jamal had to take the next best offer. Are you happy with the way things turned out? Or do you wish there was a world where Jamal Williams said, yep, give me that contract?
I just think from last year, he had a pretty good year. Broke the season total touchdowns record. Also behind an incredible offensive line. Definitely top five in the league, and we can argue on that if you'd like, but I think you're going to agree.
Big fan of the
But
Lions O line.
I think that this just happened for a reason. I thought we were going to bring back Jamal. Most of the offense similarly from last year, and it was just going to be Jamal and Swift. It didn't work out for whatever reason. I think the agent just fucked up and didn't get Jamal his money, where he would have got more in Detroit. We, man, my cat is going crazy.
That's all right. I can
Um,
hear him.
um, anyway, yeah, I think I'm happy with Montgomery now. I think he got the number 5, and I think that's kind of nice. It'll look good. I think he's better than Jamal, especially with our offensive line. So I'm happy with the way things turned out. If I would have changed it, I think it would have been a little bit smoother with Jamal, just because I like him as a person, and I don't like the fact that he thought he was disrespected by the Lions organization when he got less money than he was offered by us.
Yeah, that's what I flashed back to when I saw that. I was like, it's a little bit bold to go out and say, they didn't lowball him. Obviously, he took less money. He settled for less money,
Right.
I guess I should say, because I don't think, I mean, once they signed Montgomery, I'm sure that offer was off the table. Maybe the moment they were like, no, we're going to test it, and Lions said, all right, yoink, if you're going to go explore, we don't want to do it. And like you
Yeah.
said, the biggest thing you're losing with Jamal, and he had a lot of touchdowns. You've seen the numbers, though. 10 of them probably came from the 1 yard line. Behind that O line, you put any running back behind them, I'm sure they'll be able to succeed, especially from the one. He was secure with the ball. Tough to put a price on that, but the biggest thing you're losing him is a locker room guy. And I think there's a price tag on that. You can't overpay just because fans like him and he's a good locker room presence. I think David Montgomery could be great. We've You're not taking a shot. It's not a rookie. We've seen him play when he's healthy. He's great. And then the way drafts have been going lately, even UDFA running backs pop into camp and put them behind a good O line. It's the talent pool is bigger than it's ever been. You can find guys if you know what you're doing. And with running backs in particular, you get someone with speed, get someone with moves, put them behind a strong offensive line, and you'll get success. So you lose the locker room presence. Yeah, tough, maybe. Ultimately, I think the locker room comes down to Dan Campbell, though, and he's sticking around. And I think it'll be next man up. Someone else will fill the role. No one will be Jamal Williams the way he was with the media. It's always fun to hear him talking about Pokemon and whatnot and just being goofy and saying, I'm just trying to get home and play Pokemon, all fun stuff like that. And it's, not fun to lose, but it's a business. The money was there. The Lions did their job and gave him what we now know was a fair contract offer. I think 9 times out of 10, you got to blame the agent because when push comes to shove, player sits down, trusts that guy, and he says, no, we'll get you more money. And they say, okay, Lions pull the offer. He didn't separate ties. Obviously, no hard feelings or anything. But to come at the Lions, I thought was a bit of a shock. But I think you guys will be better men for it. I think the franchise is in a good spot. You lose your goal line running back. That's a position where you can lose somebody. You don't want to get into a point where you're 9-8 and grasping for straws, trying to redo what you did last year, because then you'd be 9-8 again. The goal is to get better. I think they did that with David Montgomery. They got a lot of draft capital to enhance the team. So I think the Lions played it how they should. They gave him a fair offer. Him and his agent said no. And then they went and got their next guy, arguably an upgrade, arguably in a good sense. I'm on the side that it is an upgrade, and I think a lot of people would agree with that. You just lose the locker room guy. And fortunately for the Lions, it was one of 5+ locker room guys in there. He wasn't the only guy holding things together. Anzalone does a good job with the locker room on the defense. I know they like him. They brought him back. Goff isn't very outspoken, but the guys like him. He likes the culture. Him and Dan Campbell are close. The offensive line, good group of guys, good heads on their shoulders. Aiden Hutchinson, good locker room guy, even as a rookie. You got guys who will step up and fill that role for the money they were already making. So upsetting to see. As an outsider, I was upset at the way Jamal handled it. But I still like him as a guy, and I wasn't even a Lions fan this year. But he's fun. He's fun, and it'll be tough to lose him. And we'll flip this into losing locker room guys, losing core pieces. Lamar Jackson on the coaching meeting. I think it was the moment Harbaugh stepped up to the podium to speak in the coaches meeting. Lamar tweets out 20 plus days after the fact, "Oh yeah, by the way, I requested a trade March 2nd and they haven't done anything. No one knows." And it kind of set the world on fire, but the market is still a little bit stale because people don't want to give up draft capital for someone they perceive as a risk. Do you think there's a team that needs Lamar Jackson? And if you were that team, what would you do to get him there?
I think it's the Falcons. I think the Falcons would love to have him on the team, even though they've came out and said, um, we don't want Lamar.
It's a great
Now,
take.
I, it's been a couple weeks since we've done a pod, so this was like a long time ago that he tweeted this, but we still haven't covered it, and we'll probably see things like this and Aaron Rodgers and other things like that. There's still a lot left on the table for this offseason, and that includes Lamar. But I can't. I just can see him going to the Falcons, and I don't know why they're not trying to do that. The Commanders as well. Still, they both need quarterbacks. Unfortunately, both are in the NFC. But I guess the AFC can't have all of them. I'll I'll uh, I'll take one from you back, but I think he's
Thank
going to
you.
go to one of those two teams. And I also think that the Falcons are, if they do that, they'll lose some of their draft picks. So it's obviously a, a risk thing, not only with his injury status every year, with his mobility as a quarterback, because it does happen. He does get injured from time to time, and he does run the ball a lot, which increases his chance to get injured. But I don't think he's won MVP. He has brought his team to the playoffs almost every year, and he's a great quarterback. So I don't know why any of these two teams or any of the teams that have already said that they don't want him said this, because better than what you got now, and they haven't been particularly great at drafting. I mean, Desmond Ritter, um, I know wasn't really a star guy, but he was their quarterback after they lost um, Mariota. So, I mean, I'd love to see him go there because he can show us what he can do with a bad team. I think
Do you think there's a world where Lamar doesn't get traded and he sits out the season?
there is a world where I can see that for sure.
I think that'd
I
be
think
bad for the
at
game.
this point, it's. I love that he doesn't have his agent because kind of just shows you that not everyone needs one. But at this point, it would probably be a little nice to have an agent, to kind of do these kinds of things.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people are saying, but I'm right there with you with giving up the draft capital. I've been seeing a lot of the last 10 receivers drafted as the first receiver in the draft lists. And you go down those, and I'm looking at names of guys who are underwhelming or draft busts. A lot of the big guys are the hidden gems you find in the late first round, early second, late second, third, fourth. A draft pick is a hypothetical until you spend it, and then you've got to wait until that draft pick turns out to get your ROI on it. When you trade for Lamar Jackson, you are getting Lamar Jackson. That's a certainty. You're not getting maybe the top quarterback next season if you suck enough, if you get up there, if you don't move. It's a guess. Draft picks are a guess. They've got value, but when push comes to shove, you're trading away something that might turn into something for something that you know is something. You're getting Lamar Jackson. When the Bears traded, I think getting DJ Moore in that trade was big because push comes to shove.
Got DJ Moore.
If all the draft picks that they got in there are busts, every single one they do, they fall back 8 picks and they get DJ Moore, who's a good proven receiver. Obviously not a good value. If they did that straight up, they would have gotten ridiculed. But that's if they miss all their picks. At least they got something guaranteed. They got Justin Fields a weapon, something to help them now if nothing pans out. What are they going to draft at 1 that's going to help them this year without moving back, So they get a guy who they know is something, and they slide back a bit and get some draft capital, and you're getting something of substance. And I think if you're doing the Lamar Jackson trade, you're getting a quarterback who you know can perform. He wins 75% of his games. Sure, injuries are questionable, but they happen to everybody, sometimes seemingly at random. Andrew Luck was phenomenal, and boom, all of a sudden he's retiring early because he hit his head a couple too many times. No one would have, there was no insight on his neck muscles. There was no injury history in college. There wasn't like, oh, he sat out X amount of games with concussions at Stanford. He went to Stanford, right?
I'll double check.
I'm
not great with those.
That sounds right. But in the long run, injuries happen. You never know when they will. Carson Wentz, great, got injured, never was good again. But no one's ever been worried about his injury history. He kept getting contracts on new teams. And if Lamar hit the open market, I have no doubt that he'd sign a contract with another team. Everybody's hung up on giving up 2 first-round picks. But if you're a team like the Falcons, show me who you draft the next 2 seasons, and let's see if they have a better career than Lamar Jackson. I highly doubt it. I think you take the talent. Whenever it comes to baseball trades, that's what I know best. And it's a quote from Marine. When push comes to shove, whoever gets the better player in the trade almost always ends up winning the trade. When the Tigers traded Verlander, he was getting old. It was questionable. We got Franklin Perez, who was a top prospect, can't miss pitching prospect. He's been dealing with injuries his whole career. I think he's pitched like 20 innings total for the Tigers since we traded Verlander. Daz Cameron and Jake Rogers. Jake Rogers' injury problems, had Tommy John surgery. Big arm, can't really hit that well. Daz Cameron, he's been all right, up and down. You're taking guesses on these guys. Give me the name. Padres in the Juan Soto trade. We'll yet to see it, but they got a 24-year-old Juan Soto with 2 years of team control, so they can even trade him 2 years later for more stuff. Take the guy who you know can do something instead of waiting and seeing what you can or can't get in the draft. It almost seems like a scam, right? If someone came up to you and you had a $100 bill and they're like, I'll tell you what, I'll give you 2 chances. You can come in the door at any point throughout the day and say, give me everything in the cash register. Yeah, that's probably a good deal. You might get big money in that register, but you might go in and find $10 2 days in a row, and now you're out $80 and you don't have the $100. So I think you got to get Lamar Jackson if you can. You can't be scared to give up capital. It's a risk that people would understand, I think. 2 first-round picks for an MVP winner who's 26, who's proven he can win games, was never really set up great in Baltimore. I mean, he had a phenomenal tight end, an offensive line. but he never really had big weapons on the outside. So you put him in a situation where he can flourish. Falcons already have Kyle Pitts, which would be huge for him. Um, I'm blanking on their receiver they got this year.
Drake London.
Drake London, they've got him. They've got weapons. The backfield is whatever. You can always draft young guys to do good. And then you can focus on the defense. You get Lamar, and I know I just said he doesn't have any weapons, but you don't really have to focus on offense that much because he can do it all. We'll do a nice little transition from NFL to NBA due to Magic Johnson being part of the bidding group, looking to buy the Commanders. Commanders finally selling. The valuation is huge. Magic Johnson and his group has enough money to get them. I think that'll be fun. It's an ownership group, obviously. They throw the big name on there to get people excited. I don't know how much say he'll have in front office moves or anything like that. But it's fun to see. Lonzo Ball, third injury of his career. Does it spell the end train? I think this is one that no NBA player has ever come back from. And I feel bad for Lonzo because he did have pressure put on him. But for the most part, he's played well when he can. But third surgery in his NBA career. Is it hang him up for Lonzo Ball?
A lot of people are talking, probably saying that. And like you said, that's a lot. That's a lot to put on your body. Um, no matter what it is, honestly, wherever it is. And he is a good basketball player whenever he does play. But the fact that he just gets injured and this keeps happening. I mean, I hope he keeps playing, but that's a little selfish, right? He obviously doesn't really need to.
Yeah.
In my opinion. But he'll probably try something. I could see him coming back or trying to come back.
And we haven't really jumped into NBA. I mean, this might be the most time we've spent on it since maybe the beginning of the season when we talked potential futures. And we talked about it a little bit today. And maybe it's an us thing. Maybe the viewers and listeners will weigh in, but the NBA lately has seemed mundane. And that's tough because we're Pistons fans. We've been sitting through, I mean, if you want to count Blake Griffin years as competitive, you can, but it was kind of a grasp at, let's keep this team treadmilling. I mean, Blake Griffin played out of his mind his first season with us, and we got bounced in the first round of the playoffs. Is the NBA losing fans, or are we just guys who have a hometown team that's not competitive, and we're just not, like, if the Pistons get really good, do you think it's going to draw you back in?
I think it will. I think it'll definitely help a little bit. But yeah, like I said on here, I feel like I haven't even paid too much attention to the NBA since the Bubble Bowl in 2020 when the Lakers won. But like, no, I haven't paid much attention or watched a game at all. I've been maybe now that a couple sports are ending, like the college basketball and hockey, and we're kind of getting to the playoffs. Maybe I'll start looking at it. But it doesn't help when your team's so shitty that you can't watch them. I don't know if you saw that highlight or that low light, I guess, of Killian Hayes yesterday or 2 days ago, where he got a steal, open layup, dished it off to whoever, and man's got blocked into like the fourth row. I think they just want to lose every game.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like it. They're 16-62 back.
Yeah, we're bad, and we'll do the Tigers comparison when we get over to MLB. I want to touch college basketball for continuity's sake before we jump over into baseball.
Yeah.
But yeah, we look bad now, and Cade's been out all season. Positives, Jaden Ivey's been balling lately. He's looking to be a phenomenal pick. Jalen Duren looks great. Wiseman's been solid. I know people are mad that he's eaten minutes from Duren, and I get it. I get the frustration. But and people say it's stunning growth. I don't know that that's necessarily a fact. Duren's a rookie. He's 19. You don't want to overwork him as part of it. I don't really have a dog in the fight either way to play Wiseman more, play Duren more. Part of it could just be get Wiseman some value again. Put him in a situation where we can get minutes on a non-contending team. And then all of a sudden a contender who needs a center is like, oh, yeah, that guy can play. We saw it on the Pistons. Similar to a Jeremy Grant move. We had a really sexy player on a really shitty team for a little bit. And we didn't even get the return we wanted out of Jeremy Grant necessarily. We got a first-round pick, which was exciting. But it could be something just like that. I don't know what the future looks like with those two bigs there. It would be tough to put either one on the bench behind the other. James Wiseman is still only 22, 23. He's young. He's young and he's looking like a baller. The defensive numbers have been great with the Pistons. There's so much going right while everything is still going so wrong for this team.
If anything, we have a very young team, which, maybe our young team looks really bad because of our record and how many games we've lost and whatever it looks like. But, it feels okay. Like if you get a couple of years under these guys' belt, maybe it works out. But I really hope it does because if I can't, this is the reason probably I'm not watching any NBA because of this. Maybe we're right. Maybe we just haven't been watching it. Other people have kind of lost interest. You and I said we should probably buy 2K again just to get back into it. And yeah, I haven't bought 2K in years. So maybe if I buy 2K, maybe if I buy 2K, then I'll just hop back into it.
Yeah, even when I played 2K the last couple of times, I'll do a fantasy draft, and I'll be like, I don't even know. I don't know what I'm doing with this anymore. I don't know some of these names. It's a new name every week now in the NBA, which is kind of fun. There's a new person appearing out of the woodworks every day. I think the talent pool is getting deeper and deeper, which is super fun. I think it'd be a good time for them to try and capitalize on the G League a little bit more. But when push comes to shove, people aren't really interested in watching secondary leagues. Numbers aren't great for minor league baseball. G Leagues always struggle to get attendance. AHL, unless you're going to the game, you don't, or a diehard, you don't tune in for a Grand Rapids Griffins game. But I think Dwayne Casey's a little bit of a problem. He's a good, stable coach, good for young guys. That's why you keep him around. Again, it's tough not having Cade this season. That was really the whole, okay, what do we have? We knew Cade was good last year. Jaden Ivey's looking great, but then we lose Cade. I think next year isn't necessarily a be good or bust type of season, but we can't be fighting for a tank shot. We should be fighting for at least a play-in next season based on the talent we have, plus a top 4 pick. Hopefully number 1. I'd be okay with 2. I'd love to get Victor, but I don't think the NBA lets us have him, unfortunately.
Not a shot.
But we'll see. Maybe we get 2K next year. Maybe the Pistons are good. Maybe we become big NBA fans again. But we'll jump into the league that everyone likes to watch, college basketball. Tournament wrapped up. I lost the money in the bank on Bama. That's okay.
Forgot about that.
I told everybody to sprinkle UConn, and they won the whole thing quite handily. A lot of people were unexcited for both the Final Four and the championship, unless you had money on it. But, UConn was obviously the better team in that game. I think there was a certain point in the tournament where people were like, oh, yeah, UConn is the team to beat, especially as some of those other teams got bumped out early on. March Madness, man, that first weekend is like electricity, and then you got the round of 32, Sweet 16, Elite 8, still pretty fun. But unless you got a dog in the fight, as of recent years, I know one of the bigger problems people are talking about is there wasn't that guy in the league to watch this year. If anything, it was Brandon Miller, and he got bounced. Victor's overseas, Scoot's in the G League. There wasn't a must-watch guy on TV. I can't name a single player from UConn or FAU, mostly because I didn't watch either of their games for the most part. All in all, I thought it was a decent tournament, though. Thoughts? I had the UConn sprinkle. That's all I really got on it. Kind of called it. Didn't really. I put all my dogs on Bama, but
Yeah, so UConn basically dominated every single team that they played. I think their closest game was like 13 points, and that's including the national championship. Um, one thing that me and Ryan sprinkled before the tournament started was a buzzer beater to happen at any point in the whole tournament,
Yep.
and a buzzer beater in the um, first round. First round did not hit because a buzzer beater technically has to be with no time left on the clock, where the other team is not allowed to or not able to inbound the ball. So there was Furman, there was FAU first round, and then there wasn't a whole lot else. I mean, so those didn't count. Lost the first round one, and San Diego State in the Final Four against FAU hit one, which electric. I was watching it, and I completely forgot about my bet until that ball was up in the air, and I was like, "Oh, let's go!" And I called Nara, FaceTime him. He's in Grand Rapids, and he's like, "I was like, dude, we hit the bet." He's like, "What bet?" Dude didn't even he forgot that we made that bet because it was like a month to the day.
It's about a minute. Yeah.
Um, yeah, it was a month, but we hit that. What I was thinking was, I know they do it for the West Coast, but 9:20 for a national championship, 9:20 at night for the tip off. Is that a little bit excessive?
It is, and I don't get the obsession with scheduling championship games on Mondays and Sundays and whatnot. Put it on a Friday night. Put it on. You want to do 9:20? Fine. Friday night, Saturday night. That way, the East Coast people can at least go to a bar and get toasted and watch the game. But for someone like me who looks at UConn SDSU and goes, I'm not going to stay up. I'm going to go get my sleep. I have work tomorrow. A game I did care about and I did watch because it was on a timely occasion was the women's national championship game. I think it was on at like 6, 7. I secretly wanted Iowa to win, but my brother-in-law is anti-Iowa till he dies. Nebraska, Iowa is basically like Michigan, Ohio in terms of like just this, not even college sports, just Nebraskans hate Iowans, whether or not we're talking college sports. It's just like,
Yeah,
Iowa's Nebraska's Ohio to Michigan.
for sure.
But I think Caitlin Clark's electric. I think she's good looking. It was a fun game to watch. Um, the
So
whole
did you watch
taunt.
the whole thing?
I did, yeah. I did watch the whole thing.
I turned it on, and I think I turned it on maybe second quarter, and LSU just couldn't miss. I
No.
was also rooting for Iowa strictly for Caitlin Clark. She's
Yeah.
the most electric college basketball player, men's or women's. I think.
Yo.
She's just very dominant and great at basketball. Uh, Fox cheesing. The whole debate on Twitter after this game was officiating and the taunting. The it's not. I guess it's not really. I guess the John Cena thing, but the you can't see me or whatever. And then the ring thing. Um, so I thought my take on this is she can do that. Like Angel Reese can do that. Caitlin Clark can do that before. I think it was a little excessive by Angel Reese. If I had to, if I had to say anything about it, but you look at professional sports like the NBA or the MLB or the NFL. The NFL, you can't even look. You can't even like Jamal Williams got fined 30 grand for air humping after a touchdown.
Yeah.
Um, NBA, you can't even stare at somebody after you dunk. MLB, you can't even bat flip. There's just these little things where we get so accustomed to taunting calls and people getting fouls and penalties or whatever it might be for the littlest things, and then we see someone do something like this where she's pointing to her finger for the ring, doing a similar taunting that Caitlin Clark did, and then we're just kind of butthurt about it. And I'm like, it was a lot, and I only thought probably that way because of Caitlin Clark, and it was to her. and I wanted her to win. So that's the only reason I think people are kind of mad about it, because everyone in the U.S. that doesn't pay a whole lot of attention to women's college basketball was rooting for Caitlin Clark because she's so electric. That's my take at the whole thing. Um, let that happen. The fact that there was no technicals because of it was shocking, but let it happen, right?
especially after the technical of the ball flip behind the back by Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, that's why I was saying like the officiating was so bad, like whatever. But LSU couldn't miss, so they definitely, they won.
Yeah, I mean, I was, from a young age, you can never blame a loss on officiating because even if that call gets made, some other call could have gotten flipped, or you work through bad calls. And it's tough. It's tough to look at the game and be like, well, refs, maybe. Um, but you got to work through it. It is what it is. I think officiating across the board is getting worse and worse. I think it's a tough job, though. No one ever wants to take the side of the refs, and I know that's an L take, but it's not easy. We get to sit at home, watch it in high definition from a skyline camera, skybox, with announcers telling us what to think, and we get replay. These guys are likely watching the ball, just one situation on the court, and they've got to make decisions quick. They don't get to sit there and be like, okay, that might be a foul. Hold up. Okay, no, it's not. Go ahead, finish the layup. They have to make a decision, and it's not easy. It's not. And mistakes happen. I do think it's on a downward turn across the board for officiating, though. In terms of the taunting, big fan of taunting in the game. I think
I
celebration
know
should
you
be in
are.
football. I think bat flips should be in baseball. And I think you should be able to wave your hand in front of someone's face. You should be able to stare someone down after a dunk. But there's a limit. I think, a touchdown celebration is all fun, but after about 5 to 10 seconds, it gets a little old. Do your celebration, flip your bat, stare down your opponent, and go back and get back in the game. Love it in the middle of games. It's intensity, it's adrenaline. These are professional athletes. It's so easy to sit there on your couch, munching popcorn and being like, what an idiot, doing all that taunting. Just go play the game. They're pumping with adrenaline. Their coach probably fired them up in the locker room. She probably had pictures of Caitlin Clark up there that said, shut her down. You've got to pump your team up to win games. Adrenaline wins games. They weren't missing shots, like you said, probably because they were jacked to the tits. That being said, it wasn't in the middle of the game. It wasn't after a big move. Her teammates were celebrating. Game was pretty much over. Go ahead and go wave in her face and go celebrate with your team. Let her know you won and move on with it. She followed her around. She seeked her out. She kept trying to get in her face. And Caitlin Clark just kept turning away, going the opposite direction. On the overhead one, you can see her trying to avoid her without looking irritated, but she was swerving. She was trying to get somewhere and she didn't want to see it. It's tough for them, too, to make it all the way to the championship game and lose. There's nothing worse than losing a championship game. You made it. You did everything. You won every game. You were the second best team there. Maybe the first if something could have gone the other way and you win. But
A 7 game series too, yeah.
yeah, just do the taunt and move on with your life. I respect Caitlin Clark for stepping up and saying, "Nah, let her do her thing. It is what it is. We're athletes." Because I love that take. They are. They're adults. They're college kids. You should be able to handle trash talk. I think it's weird for fans to get upset about taunting on the court. If Caitlin Clark's not upset with it, I don't see why we should be upset with it. I've never seen an NFL player come out in the field and be like, "Man, really that really hurt when Jamal Williams air humped."
Right. That's what I was trying to. I thought that was a pretty decent comparison, just for professional sports.
Yeah,
And at a college level, you'd probably see that more often. I would think, those sort of technicals and those taunting calls being called. But that's what I just don't call them anymore, and unless
yeah.
it's just really bad. Like this is why we're so accustomed to outrage when we see something a little over the top, or I don't even think it was over the top, but some people do.
And I get the whole, I guess the biggest argument is you're setting an example for kids. because they
Right.
watch it. I coach youth basketball and soccer, more so in basketball. 7th and 8th graders go on the court and they play it like it's an NBA game. They do the little taunts. They do the fancy layups, the crazy passes they see these guys do. I'd rather you say, okay, no more no look behind the back passes than no more taunting, because I can tell a kid not to taunt, but it's really hard to tell someone that chucking up half court shots doesn't work when Steph Curry is the best player in the league doing it. I'm not saying we should limit flashiness, but there's a lot of other things that are setting examples for people watching games. Especially in the pros, let them be adults. I didn't hate when college football had their celebration rules. Again, I thought it was a little ridiculous. They're adults. They're living on their own. Some of these guys might get one touchdown in their college career. Let them celebrate. That might be Angel Reese's only NCAA championship. Let her taunt if she wants to taunt. Again, I'm going to go celebrate with my team, but also knowing the basketball player I am, I'm probably going to go taunt a motherfucker too. So it's hard for me to be unbiased on this, because I'd probably be right up in someone else's face after the game too and be like, yeah, you fucking thought, huh? But I think it's tough. I guess my opinion in the end is, if Caitlin Clark wasn't bothered by it and nothing bad was said, you're adults. People taunt. People taunt in the real world. They brag and might be a little bit more humble, but people rub stuff into you, and it might hurt a little bit more in real life than it does on the basketball court. On to the next one. I think it's a big nothing burger, and people are taking sides because they think they have to, because of this dynamic in America that is this versus that right now, and everybody's got to separate on everything. There has to be two sides, and you have to pick one, and I hate that. If no one's hurt, nothing stupid was said or done, nothing was inappropriate about the gestures. It's adrenaline, man. It's a championship game. You don't get to be there that often. They're kids. Let them do what they want to do. Let the coach handle with it. They thought it was over the top, but Caitlin Clark was still all over media today, getting her interview time. She's still got a bright career ahead of her. Let kids have their moment. Let pros have their moment. Let people celebrate. You don't always have something to celebrate for. Let them go for it. Don't have much NFL talk besides we will be in attendance for the Wings game on the 8th. NHL. So we will report back on the next podcast with our scouting report in person on the Wings game. We got the Gwins. We'll fuck them up. I feel confident about it. And now I'm going to do a little rewind. We're going to take 2 steps back so we can take 3 forward. Pistons stink. Every Detroit team has stunk for a while now. Red Wings are turning up, but they still kind of stink. Lions are really up, division favorites, looking to have a good season for them coming up. But the Tigers and the Pistons are bottom of the barrel right now. And it's early for the Tigers. It's late for the Pistons. That being said, Tigers have a ridiculous first half of the schedule. We started off with the Rays, who are consistently good with nothing. I don't know how they do it. No one does. There's 30 MLB GMs who don't know how they do it, but they do every year. They trade 50 people away. They get back a whole bunch of people no one's ever heard of, and then those guys come over and play better than the guy they traded away. It's ridiculous. No one knows how they do it, but it's tough, and they're built on pitching normally. The Rays turn out pitchers. Tigers struggle to hit them. Whatever. We beat the Astros last night. That's fun. Matt Vierling hit a 2-run bomb in the 11th to take the lead. Gregory Soto, who we traded for him and 2 other players, we got Matone and Donnie Sands back. He's got a 27 ERA for the Phillies right now. And although the Tigers look bad, and I don't think we're obviously not going to be great, but we beat the Astros. And it's one game of 162. They'll probably win the next 2. But the Phillies, who were just in the World Series last year, added Trey Turner, didn't really lose that much. They're off to an 0-4 start. They've got 1 home run, and it's from Alec Boehm, who was probably the last guy on that roster who you think might hit a home run. If I told you the Phillies had 1 home run, that would be most people's last guess. So I'm not hanging up yet on the Tigers. Bullpen looks okay. Starting pitching still a little bit riddled with injuries. And we're fighting through this slog of prospects that Avila drafted for us. And we just got to hope two of them stick. And we got to hope Scott Harris does know what he's doing. The only thing you can really base that off of right now is the Gregory Soto trade, which is tough because, one, it's early for Soto. Two, they're putting, these guys are getting everyday starts now. They were platoon players in Philly. So I'm sure their numbers will go up. But that's about all we got. We didn't do any big free agent signings. Matthew Boyd looked nice-ish. It's good to see him back. Bullpen, nice-ish. We added a Rule 5 guy, Englert. He pitched really well last night. Veerling showed pop against a right-handed pitcher, which is good to see. But there's still so many question marks there. Javi Baez is not off to a great start, but it's early. It's early. I'm a little bit confident. If I had to pick,
meat.
And it's tough with the Pistons too because they don't have Cade. I think the Pistons are in a better spot for the future, but I think the Tigers season will be a little bit better than the Pistons. I don't think this is a team that will be contending for a top 3 pick in the MLB draft. That's my 2 cents on the MLB.
What do you think about the 25 minutes that you get back from these baseball games? I see that on average throughout the first almost week of the season, 25 minutes has been saved on each of the games.
Train, I've been loving it. Ba-da-da-da-da. I'm loving it. I thought I was a little wary of it in spring training. I'm on the podcast saying thought the pitch clock was too fast. But I also said that pitchers would adjust. These are MLB guys. The AAA guys have been using the pitch clock. On top of shaving off the 25 minutes per game, there's been, I think the number was 0.8 pitch clock violations, and that's between catchers, pitchers, hitters, and then I think base runners was one of them. I don't know. There was 4 categories. But maybe 1 pitch clock violation per game, so 1 ball/strike per game due to the pitch clock on average at the beginning of the season. But boy, oh boy, does watching a baseball game just feel a little bit smoother. Baseball is a sport I always love to watch, but it's one of my favorite things to turn on in the background and then play PlayStation while it's happening, or just have it up as I'm walking back and forth doing things. Now you can sit and watch a baseball game for an inning because it's going. You see a pitch, all right, strike 1, take a sip of your pop, your drink, take a bite of your food, and pitch 2's coming in. It's so refreshing. In a 162 game season where not every game is I got to sit down and watch that. There's not many Sundays in the NFL where it's like, I don't really feel like I need to watch the game tonight. No, your team plays on Sunday, Thursday, Monday. You turn it on to watch them. And I understand that's not the case with baseball because you can get 162 games. Not everyone can matter, and I think this has been a good move to speed up the games. I don't think it ruins the integrity. You get some people saying, oh, he made the game shorter. He made them not last as long. It's still a 9-inning baseball game, 27 outs. I think runner on second is a great permanent addition, especially because they get rid of that in the postseason. I'm interested to see the pitch clock in the postseason because sometimes you get those moments where you do like to sit there for 20 seconds and watch the pitcher breathe and shake off a couple signs, and it's game 7, you're up 1 run, your closer's in, and the crowd is just continuously yelling. There's moments like that in the postseason, so I'm interested to see how they handle that, or if there's any big issues. But in the regular season, I don't need suspense being built up. I want to see the next pitch. So I've liked it. I've liked it from a perspective of a diehard baseball fan. I think it's been good for the game. I've seen a lot more people who I would have considered casuals tuning into games and following games because it's more convenient, it's more quick.
It shocks me really. I'll look down at the game and I'll have it on my phone while I'm doing something like you said, a good background, and I'll be like, oh, okay, it's already the sixth inning, and I feel like I've only been watching the game for an hour.
Yeah,
So it's different, and I'm sure I'll get used to it. And I know we had different takes, at the preseason, but I think I like it. I'm also curious to see how it changes the playoffs. So just kind of backing you off on there. I'm just piggybacking what you said, honestly.
yeah, it's fun. I like it. I like it. I'm interested. Two pickoff rules been fun too. I don't think it's affected that much. Stolen base numbers are up a lot. I don't think that's due to a rule change. I think it's some in the back of some people's heads like, oh, we can steal more because the bases are bigger. There haven't been that many close plays where it's like, if the bases were smaller, he's not there.
Right.
So I think that we just like tricked people into stealing more. But baseball seems fun again. I don't know. There's a little bit more small ball. It's early. We'll see how it goes. Let's jump into the wager wheel. I've got golf on there, I think, but
Masters?
it's not labeled the Masters because I forgot to change it. But it's a golf tournament that already happened, so we'll know that means the Masters if it lands on it. I've slipped to 3-3 in wager wheel. I've been having a rough time with it compared to my teaser picks. Train, you're up to 4-2, taking the lead on wager wheel. I did not put NCAA over on the fireside because NCAA
Okay.
basketball is over. So it could sit there at 1-0 until it gets bumped off. I also left the XFL home spread off of Frosty because there's already 3 on there right now. So until that goes 0-2 or one of the other ones gets a win, it will not remain on there. I will go ahead and spin the wheel for you first, Trent. I'll let you know what you get. You can think. I'll spin for myself. Your spin is off. Here we go. So I think it's the Dell golf one or whatever that's on there. No, what?
Did you get
All right, Trent.
Did you get rid of the clapping?
I did not. I did not. So listeners will be happy to hear that again. You got the Masters golf. You got to pick a Masters winner.
A winner?
Yeah, it's the only
Oh,
golf
okay.
one on there, and it just says
Oh
winner.
my god.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh jeez.
So yeah,
Did I go smart here?
I'll spin for myself. You can think. It'd be really fun if we both got golf winner, huh? No way.
Did we?
Yeah, back-to-back spins. All right, all right.
Wow.
So
It's kind of insane.
yeah, I mean, there is a world where we could both win, but we'd have to pick the same guy. I don't think we're gonna do that. So this is a 1-1, 0-2, unlikely 2-0 for us. But I don't hate that it happened for the Masters. If we're gonna get a double golf winner, at least it's the Masters, right?
Yeah, it's probably like it feels really tough.
Well, it
Like
is tough because you're looking at this whole field, and it's like who are
I
we
could
gonna?
just like bite the bullet and just Scotty's absolutely dominant, but that feels wrong, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna make a real dumb pick, but I've got to make it. So
Do you already have yours?
oh yeah,
Or-
yeah. I'm just texting Nar back right now.
Oh, okay.
I, do you want me to say mine now? So you don't. I don't want to like take yours because technically your spin was first. But
Oh, okay. I have I have 3 in mind.
you get one.
I know. If you take mine, I'll take one of the other 2.
So you want mine?
I'd like to hear yours first.
I have to. I have to take Jordan Spieth. I love him. I love Jordan Spieth. He'll probably be in it until day 3, and then he'll fall out and stink. But got to take Spieth.
Okay.
Give me Spieth
So
to
I
win
was-
the Masters.
I don't know why, but I was kind of thinking Will Zalatoris. Um, that's plus 4,500.
Wow, will the thrill.
Um, and then you also got like live guys, which I think are just gonna do really bad for
Really,
whatever
you think?
reason. I think they're gonna do bad. Um, Scotty's dominant. I'm gonna go Scotty. Yeah, fuck me up. I know, Bach.
There's
I know.
there's a little chance here that Masters goes from, and maybe I'll just call it golf tournament winner, so we can leave it on the wheel. There's a chance that this goes straight into the Frosty category because it could go
There's a
0-2 right off the
there's
bat.
a there's a damn good chance.
And I think it would have to make it on there at that point. So I'd have to just call it a golf tournament winner, and we just leave that on the wheel. So that way, we just see how awful we are at picking golf tournament winners.
And I'm gonna be pissed if Will Zalatoris wins.
Jordan Spieth, Scotty Scheffler to win the Masters. Lock them in. Maybe sprinkle them both if you're with the show. Train, any closing thoughts?
No, I think I'm gonna type up a mock draft between now and next week and see what I think. So maybe we'll do like our own little mock draft if you want. Maybe first, I don't know. I was gonna say the whole first round, but maybe up until the Jags pick or something.
Well, if we're going to 24, might as well finish it out.
Yeah, we'll just have a huge NFL segment where we just do that. But I don't know. We'll talk about it.
Perfect. I'm behind it. Anything that I don't have to talk more NBA about. Thanks for listening.
Oh.
Thanks for listening. This was episode 26 of Jux and All Things Sports Podcast, presented to you by Always Boolin. We got Jordan Spieth. We got Scotty Scheffler to win the Masters. Pick one of them. Pick both of them. I don't know. Someone's got to win, right? Thanks for listening. 740, big no-run first inning play tonight. 4 units. Let's get 6 out, no runs. And always, thanks for listening. Like and subscribe on YouTube if you haven't. Drop a follow, drop a review. And as always, let's fist it, gentlemen. Thanks for listening.